everybody. I am Melisa Nielsen with Waldorf Essentials, and this is my awesome other half, Erik.
Hello.
It's about man down, woman down. When somebody is sick and not really sick, I'm not really talking about your run-of-the-mill, you get the flu, although this could apply to that. This is more like big sickness.
Injury. And
so I was thinking,
chronic pain.
Yes, chronic, all of that. So we've had, let's see, I had a concussion several years ago, and that had me down for a while. And then you had mono, and that had you down for probably 6 weeks, maybe even 2 months.
Yeah,
a while.
It was a bad case of mono.
It was really bad. And then I had a stroke a couple of years ago, and that had me down for a while. And then Erik sort of dealt with some chronic back pain that comes and goes, and this time really hit him hard.
During our move.
During our move. So I think what we wanted to really talk about was how do you stay connected, and how do you work through that on the personal side, and then also together. So do you want to talk first about sort of what you've been experiencing and sort of how, because it's really, those that follow us through Thrive know that we were doing something every week, and then we had our move, and he injured us back during our move. So we haven't done anything every week. So it's affected our work stuff, but thankfully we work at home together, so that's been helpful. But what things have been helpful and not helpful?
Well, one thing is when it's a pain that's not going away like you want it to, and it's bad, and it's keeping you from doing things that you want to do or you used to be able to do, and you're slowly building back up to doing those things, and it feels like this major setback. It's easy to get depressed about it.
It is.
And it's easy to get grouchy about it.
Oh, totally. And I think about my stroke, and there were times I had some really down times. Like I was like, I'm pretty choleric, so never in my life could I say that I was depressed, except for during the weeks following that. And some of that's medication. Some of that's just the emotional stuff that you go through when you have an injury or something like that sets you back, like almost dying. But you sort of had that when you had mono too. You were on death's door, and you had a lot of time to think about stuff.
I did.
I think it can be hard. I think different temperaments approach it differently, but I think it can be hard to sort of pull yourself out of that place of because you sort of, I think when you're ill, you really live more in your head than you do any other time.
Yeah, and I think you run into the danger of feeling guilty and feeling like I'm this burden on everybody, and everybody would be having so much more fun if it wasn't for me, or everybody would be more rested and things would get done if it wasn't for me. And those things can contribute to getting you down.
Well, I think too that some of the things that pulled you out, once we realized that that's what was happening, were that we worked on, because he's had times where he's had to be up in the night for an hour or more because he can't lay down, and so helping with positive things to listen to. We're in that place. Yeah. And I think, just from being there, when you need to listen to something positive, but you'd rather have a pity party, that's when you really need to find something positive. When you be like, no, I don't want to listen to anything positive. You need to listen to something positive. That's your cue right there. When you're fighting yourself, that's your cue. Don't you think?
Yeah.
I think that we've done a lot to be able to, we use Audible a lot, and Audible is really good because you can load it on your phone and then just have headphones in, and he sort of made it this rule that if he had to be up in the night, he was going to be listening to something positive. Because it's really easy to just hop on the internet and start reading Facebook, and then especially with all the election stuff, you just get more irritated, depressed, frustrated, right? Mm-hmm. But if you've got Audible loaded on there and you've got something good, and we found a really good thing about back pain that was great. That was like divine providence when I was like, okay, you need something else to listen to, and so it just appeared. And so but we have, and if you've got got questions or want some suggestions, drop me a note. I'm happy to give you some of the suggestions for the ones that we've listened to. But there was this chronic back one that was written actually by an MD, and he talked about all kinds of pain, not just back pain. I think for anybody who has chronic pain, it would be a good book, because it just talked about sort of all of the stuff that goes on up here. We listened to there's a really good Audible called Co-Creating at Its Best by Wayne Dyer and Esther Hicks that I think is amazingly helpful. There's a lot of really good things that I think you can replace that when you have to be in your head. Replace it that time, because I like the Wayne Dyer said, and I know he wasn't the original one who said it, but that's why I picked it up. The mind is Satan's lawyer, and the heart is a servant to God. And I think that's so like true. Did you find that, like, when you're in that place where you can't, it's almost like you're stuck there. You're in this mind prison, and it makes us sort of be in our pain body. And then it's not just our body that's hurting, then everything is hurting around us and everything suffers, and catching ourselves, I think, is super important. I think that it's such a testament to the fact that you already live pretty connected to be able to go, okay, I don't like this place that I'm going.
Yeah.
But I think if you're not in that space, if you're not in that already connected place, it's harder to pull yourself out of it. But I sort of feel like we've got this bungee cord now that sort of bungees us back to place, but it's not because we're weird, freaky people. It's because we work on it, like, constantly, like, every day.
Well, and it's important to be open to what things can make things better.
Yeah.
And if you're resisting things that make you feel better, then you have to ask yourself, why is it that I'm preferring to be in this place? Mm-hmm. Is this actually as unpleasant as this illness or this injury? Is this an escape from things I don't want to do?
Those are like really hard questions to ask yourself. Really hard. I was reading something interesting. I know a lot of moms that are struggling with autoimmune stuff, and I've had some suggestions sometimes from doctors going, maybe you have, and I go, no, don't talk to me about that. I don't want to talk about that. But I was reading something that said that the only nations that have anything autoimmune are first world nations, and I know it's in our food, but I also know it's like in like what we do to ourselves and how we're thinking and how we see ourselves, because we have too much time to think and too much time to worry about things, and instead of worrying about the right things, we tend to hate ourselves and do a lot of, like, self-deprecating stuff that's not, or degrading stuff that's not good. So I think that if we can impart anything to you, if you're really working on that as a couple, I think that one of the things that was super helpful, especially this time with Erik's back, and it's not totally better, but it's definitely on the mend. Definitely, like, he's sitting in a chair. That's huge. He slept in the bed last night. That's huge. And so I think that one of the things is that we're super open with each other, and he said something to me in the very beginning where because I would say, how's your pain? And he said to me, don't call it my pain. I don't want to own it. I don't want to own it. And that was like something I thought, I hadn't even thought of that. I hadn't thought of, if I call it your pain, then it's yours and it belongs to you. And he didn't want it. And I think that's one thing that, when you're the support partner, that you can really think about, what words can I use? What things can I say that are uplifting and not contributing, and picking it, because you know what, it's hard. It's really hard, and I know it must have been super hard for him after my stroke and the times that I've been down, and it's, I'm not gonna lie, it's definitely been hard since he's been down, but because we're open, he can feel my energy drop, and he's like, oh no, what's wrong? And I can feel his drop and ask the same questions. And so I think that when you're open and you're really connecting to each other, then those things come first, and you're realizing realizing, hey, wait a minute. I know he doesn't want to be in pain. I know he doesn't, even though there's hard times and there's things that I wish he could do, I know he doesn't want to be in this place. So how do I help him be not in this place? And is it a matter of, yeah, we need to go see a doctor? Or is it a matter of we need to work on the emotional stuff that goes with that? And so I think only you will know if that's right for your situation. But I think if you're the support person, it can be exhausting, especially if you're dealing with the kids. We're sort of in a spot now in our marriage where our kids are older and we have older kids that help and adult kids. And so it's super helpful that that we have that. So I think your support system is really important. When I had my stroke, even though we don't have any family in San Diego, we have a really good church community. So I would encourage you there's so many good organizations. It doesn't have to be Christian church. I was a Unitarian Universalist for some years, and there's so many ways that you can create community. I think community is so important, and it really is very helpful when you have this sort of situation where excuse me, where you need support. Live video, you can't edit that out. But I think that's been something that's been like awesome on the back of my head, is I'm like, even though we don't need it right now because we have big kids that are helping, if I needed it, I know I could call somebody to help. And I think that's super important. And if you're feeling like you don't have anybody to help, you've got to work on building up that community. And part of building that community is that we share. So we're also here for the people in that community. They're not just there for us. So, we share that sort of service situation. So, I hope that this has been helpful and maybe opened your eyes. And maybe if it's not something that you've needed right now, it'll be something that you'll need down the road, and you'll be able to come back to it and refer back to it. And if you're dealing with something that's chronic, we're so sorry. We know it's really hard, huh? It just sucks. So anyway, alarm's going off. Time to be done. Hope y'all have a great day. Bye now.
Bye.